An old man stands on a jagged cliff of black volcanic rock. The salt spray of the Aegean Sea stings his eyes. And forward through the centuries. Same claim, same absolute authority. Most people assume this title is just a poetic way to say God is eternal. The Protos breathes before the empires rise. The Eschatos remain standing when their monuments turn to dust. But this reality creates a terrifying tension for the people actually living on the ground. If God is the Alpha at creation, and God is the Omega at the restoration, if he is the Arche at the origin, and the Telos at the finish line, if he is the Protos before the empires rise, and the Eschatos after they fall, what happens to us in the middle? We are trapped in the space between the letters. We exist in the agonizing gap between the promise and the payoff. We do not remember the Alpha. We cannot see the Omega. We only feel the friction of the present. We only hear the alarm clocks. We only stare at the cold tile of hospital waiting rooms. We only read the breaking news. We only feel the sweat on our palms when the numbers do not add up. This is where panic breeds. This is where the empires do their best work. Rome thrives in the middle. Babylon thrives in the middle. They look at the chaos, and they offer a counterfeit control. They offer safety if you just bow down. They read the book of Revelation. They see the cosmic battles and the dragons and the falling stars. And they think this phrase, they offer peace if you just surrender the pen. And when the pressure builds, we assume God has left the room. We want to jump to the end. We want to bypass the waiting. We hate the tension. We despise the unknown. We want the destination without the journey. We want the resurrection without the cross. We think the middle is a random sequence. We think the middle is an accident. But an alphabet does not skip from the first letter to the last. It requires every consonant. It demands every vowel. If you hold the alpha and the omega, you hold the beta, the gamma, the delta. You hold the entire sequence. When Jesus claims these titles, he is not just claiming the edges of history. He is claiming jurisdiction over your Tuesday morning. He is claiming authority over the Roman courtroom. He is claiming ownership of the silent, terrified moments in the middle of the night. The middle is not an unscripted void. It is the sentence being written. The Romans thought their empire was the final word. The Christians in the first century thought their exile was a dead end. We think our current crisis is a permanent state. We look at the fractured pieces of our lives, the broken relationships, the delayed prayers, the unhealed diseases. We try to build our own reality. Is just a timestamp, a way of saying God was there at the spark of creation and God will still be there when the sun burns out. We grab the pen. We try to force the timeline. We try to be the author. But the Arche and the Telos are holding the boundaries. The Protos and the Eschatos have bracketed the timeline. The chaos of the present moment is not spinning off the page. It is contained. It is governed. It is moving toward a specific, unbreakable design. The author has not abandoned the manuscript. He is simply unfolding the plot. And John is about to see exactly what that plot looks like when the ink dries. John stands on a high mountain in the spirit. The biting wind from the Aegean Sea is gone. The sky tears open. He does not see a fiery apocalypse. He does not see humanity abandoning its physical bodies to float away into some ethereal spirit realm. He sees a massive, physical city descending. It comes down out of the clouds, brilliant like a jasper stone, clear as crystal. The foundations are embedded with sapphire, emerald, and amethyst, cold and hard to the touch. The 12 gates are carved from single pearls, massive and luminous. There is no sun. Yet the light pouring from the center of the city is so thick you can almost feel its warmth on your skin. This is the Omega. This is the Eschatos. This is the Telos. For centuries, the people of God looked backward. They looked back to Eden. But if you look closer at the specific letters spoken, at the context of the Roman machine, at the Jewish mind receiving this Greek vision, they mourned the garden. They thought the goal of human history was simply to rewind the clock, to get back to the naked innocence of the first pages of Genesis, before the fruit was bitten, before the bronze swords were forged, before the empires marched. But the architect of reality is not moving backward. This is not a return to the beginning. It is the arrival at the completion. Eden was the arche, the raw material, the untamed wilderness, the origin point. But this descending city, the New Jerusalem, is the telos, the finalized masterpiece, the cultivated culture, the ultimate purpose of human existence. God does not scrap the project of creation when humanity rebels. He does not throw the manuscript into the fire. He takes the broken pieces of the middle, the history of human building and striving, and he redeems it into a holy metropolis where heaven and earth finally lock together in a permanent embrace. And right here, as the city touches the new earth, the voice speaks from the throne. It is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. The Greek word he uses for it is done is gegonan. It means it has come to pass. It has become a permanent, unshakable reality. The sentence is finished. The final period has been placed on the manuscript of history. You start to see something the chronological reading completely misses. I am the Alpha and the Omega. It is not a timeline. The Roman Empire, the Emperor Domitian, to the exile on Patmos. They are all reduced to a microscopic footnote in a book authored by someone else. But as John walks through the open gates of this staggering new world, he notices something impossible at the very center. To understand how the final letter was actually written, you have to look closely at what is standing in the middle of the throne. Because the God who claims the entire alphabet did not finish his sentence with a golden crown. He finished it covered in blood. We expect the author of reality to finish the story with a sword. We want a God who writes the final chapter with fire. We want a cosmic dictator who finally descends to crush the empires, to shatter the marble statues, to break the teeth of the oppressors. We want power that looks like Rome, just bigger. We want a lion. But John looks at the center of the throne in this new city, and he does not see a lion. He sees a lamb, standing as though it had been slaughtered. The ultimate authority of the universe does not wear the polished bronze armor of a general. He carries the scars of an execution. The telos, the grand, sweeping architectural goal of human history, is inextricably linked to the wood, the iron, and the blood of Golgotha, of how long God exists. It is a map of what God is making. The real question of this vision isn't, when is the world going to end? Because the end of the story was not written in the clouds, it was written on a cross. Think about the root word of telos, the ultimate purpose, the completed goal. 60 years before John stands on Patmos, he stands at the foot of a Roman execution stake. He watches the soldiers divide the linen garments. He hears the breathing grow shallow. He smells the sweat mixed with dirt and dried blood. And he watches Jesus of Nazareth push up on his nailed feet, gasp for air, and shout one final word into the Judean sky before he dies. Tetelestai. It is finished. Tetelestai is a verb formed directly from the exact same noun, telos. Jesus is not just saying, "My life has reached its end." He is declaring, the telos has been achieved. The ultimate goal is accomplished. The debt is canceled. The masterpiece is fully paid for. The cross is not the interruption of the plan. It is the architecture of the city. The Roman machine thought they were placing a period at the end of a rogue rabbi's life. They thought the heavy iron spike driven through human flesh was the final punctuation mark. They thought they owned the alphabet. They were wrong. The cross was God using the empire's own brutal grammar to write their defeat. The Omega bled to buy back the broken pieces. The eschatos allowed himself to be crushed by time so that he could drag humanity. It is this. What is holding your reality together right now? We are a species haunted by tomorrow. We worry about what happened yesterday. Out of the wreckage, he absorbed the chaos. He took the absolute worst the middle of the timeline had to offer, and he swallowed it whole. We do not follow a detached clockmaker who winds up the universe and waits safely at the finish line. We follow an author who wrote himself into the bloodiest page of the story to make sure we make it home, which leaves us with one final reality to face. When the vision fades, when the roaring Aegean wind hits John's face again, the old man is still on a prison island. The empire is still in power. The suffering has not vanished. And that brings us to the most intimate, devastating truth of the alphabet. The voice spoke into the black water of Genesis, and light tore across the void. The ancient rabbis traced the letters of truth, and the scaffolding of existence held the universe together. The prophet stood in a shaking temple, and the protos outlasted the terror of the Babylonian siege. The Roman spike drove through human flesh on Golgotha, and the ultimate debt was paid in full. The old man shivered on a volcanic cliff, and the decree of the emperor was reduced to a microscopic footnote. The Archie began the work in an untamed garden, and the Telos completed it in a luminous, descending city. The slain lamb stood at the center of the throne. We panic about the breaking news of what might happen next, and we live under the crushing illusion that history is a random sequence of accidents, and the final period was placed on the manuscript of time. Same alphabet, same author, but maybe the part that keeps pulling me back is the absolute defiance of the vocabulary. Not the golden city at the end, but the old man on the jagged rock at the beginning. John is breathing cold air. He is wearing coarse linen. He is watching the Aegean Sea crash against a penal colony where he expects to die. The Roman machine has silenced everyone he loves. Peter is gone. James is gone. Thomas is gone. And right there, in the darkest, most terrifying gap of his timeline, he is handed the vocabulary of God. If you are in a season where you feel trapped in the middle of the sentence, if you are staring at a medical diagnosis printed on cold paper, a fractured relationship you cannot seem to fix, or a silence from heaven that feels like an empty room, and you are terrified that this chaos is the final word, you do not have to write the ending. You do not have to force the timeline. The protos and the eschatos have bracketed your reality. The author, who started your faith, is the exact same architect who will complete it. If this opens something up for you today, subscribe and leave a comment. Even one word helps. Share this video with someone who feels stuck in the terrifying waiting room of their own story. And please pray for us, spiraling out of control. We read a phrase like, the beginning and the end, and we try to do math as we keep digging into these ancient texts. And may the God who holds the very first letter and the very last walk with you through every terrifying space in between until you finally see the masterpiece he was building all along. We try to calculate the days. We treat the creator of the universe like a clockmaker who wound it all up, and the wind pulls at his coarse linen cloak. He is surrounded by water, exiled to a penal colony called Patmos, and is merely waiting at the finish line to turn off the lights. To feel the weight of what actually happens on Patmos, you have to start with the language itself, not the theology, not the English translation. You have to start with the alphabet, because the detail that changes how you read the entire book of Revelation is hiding in the very ink of the first century world. A 24-letter sequence is a boundary. Look at any document written in the ancient Mediterranean world, from a merchant's shipping manifest to an imperial death warrant, and you are looking at a specific arrangement of 24 Greek letters. A scribe dips a reed pen into a mixture of soot and water, presses it against the woven fibers of a papyrus sheet, and creates reality. In the first century, the Greek alphabet is the operating system of the Roman Empire. Every law that governs the streets of Ephesus is written with it. Every copper coin traded in the marketplace of Smyrna is stamped with it. The Emperor Domitian, the man who exiled John to a rock in the sea, uses those letters to declare himself Dominus et Deus, Lord and God. The empire uses the alphabet to tell the early Christians what their reality is, what their worth is, and exactly how their story is going to end. And then, a voice like a trumpet shatters the air. I am the Alpha and the Omega. Alpha is the first letter. Omega is the last, effectively silenced by a Roman emperor who believes a sword can kill a movement. The stone beneath his sandals is hard and unforgiving, but when a Jewish mind hears this phrase spoken in Greek, They do not hear a chronological timeline. They hear a literary boundary. An alphabet contains every possible word that can ever be spoken. Every poem, every verdict, every prophecy, every comfort, every command. If you possess the first letter and the last letter, you possess every syllable in between. He is not claiming the edges of the timeline. He is claiming the entire vocabulary of existence. To say I am the Alpha and the Omega is to say that nothing can be written outside of his authority. The Roman emperor can write a decree. He can stamp his profile on a piece of silver. He can nail a mandate to a wooden post in the center of the city. But he is merely borrowing God's alphabet to do it. The empire does not get the final word, because the empire does not own the letters. This is a devastating critique of imperial power. Jesus is telling a terrified, persecuted church that the Roman machine is not the author of their reality, the pain they are feeling in their bodies, the confiscation of their property, the silence of their exile. None of it is the end of the sentence. The author who started the text is still holding the pen. He is the last one left. The other 11 are dead. Peter is crucified in Rome. James is executed by a sword in Jerusalem. But this claim on Patmos is actually an echo. Because to truly feel the weight of what is happening in this vision, you have to realize that this is not the first time God used this exact framework to build a world. The Greek letters are new, but the pattern is ancient. Long before John sat on a volcanic cliff, another author used a different alphabet to do the exact same thing in the dark. Black space, silent water, a wind hovering over the deep. There is no sun to warm the surface. There is no stone to stand on. There is only chaos, waiting in the dark. And then, a voice speaks. Let there be light. The void shatters. Photons explode into existence. Light tears across the empty canvas. God speaks again. Water separates. Dry land rises. Seeds crack open in the wet soil. Stars ignite in the blackness. Oceans crash against new coastlines. Green shoots push through the mud. Breath fills lungs of clay. He does not build the universe with a hammer. He does not sculpt it with a chisel. He speaks it. Creation is not a mechanical assembly. It is a spoken masterpiece. Every star, every cedar tree, every drop of rain is brought forth by vocabulary. In the ancient Hebrew mindset, reality is made of words. Ancient rabbis taught a tradition that before God created the heavens and the earth, he created the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Thomas is pierced by a spear in India. John alone remains. An old man breathing cold air, watching the horizon, from Aleph, the first letter, to Tav, the last. They believe the letters were the literal building blocks of existence. If God stopped speaking for even a fraction of a second, the universe would instantly collapse back into the void. His breath holds the atoms together. Look at the Hebrew word for truth, emet. It is spelled with Aleph, the first letter of the alphabet, Mem, the middle letter, and Tav, the last letter. Truth encompasses the entirety of existence, from beginning to end. If you remove the Aleph, the first letter, you are left with the word Met, which means death. The Aleph and the Tav are not just grammar. They are the scaffolding of life. When John hears the voice on Patmos say, I am the Alpha and the Omega, he is hearing this exact Genesis reality translated into the language of his captors. The Jewish Aleph and Tav become the Greek Alpha and Omega. The Roman Empire thinks they are holding John captive. They think their Greek decrees dictate the future. But the God who spoke the black water into light is still speaking, and he is using their own alphabet to prove it. But Jesus does not stop with the alphabet. In the exact same breath, he gives John a second title, a second Greek phrase to describe who he is. And this one has nothing to do with letters. This one is about architecture. Now, he waits in the isolation of the empire's prison. But then, a voice shatters the rhythmic roar of the ocean crashing against the cliffs. Fast forward from the jagged cliffs of chapter 1 to the staggering cosmic vision of chapter 21. John is looking at a new heaven and a new earth. The old order of pain, death, and weeping has fractured and dissolved. And the voice coming from the throne speaks the alphabet claim one more time, but then immediately adds a second title to explain it. Revelation chapter 21, verse 6, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. The words translated beginning and end in your English Bible are the Greek arche and telos, and the etymology of these two words dismantles our modern obsession with the timeline. The word arche does not just mean the first item in a chronological sequence. It means the active source, the first cause, the ruler and origin point from which everything else flows out. And the word telos is even more profound. In Greek philosophy and literature, telos never means simply stopping or reaching the end of a rope. If you are running a race and you trip and break your ankle, your race has ended, but it has not reached its telos. Telos means the ultimate goal, the completed purpose, the destination that the architect had in mind. It sounds like a trumpet, a physical vibration splitting the air behind him. He turns. The vision that follows will become the most misunderstood text before the first stone was ever cut. An acorn's telos is the oak tree. A blueprint's telos is the cathedral. If seeing the original language completely reframe how you read the book of Revelation is stirring something inside you, you're exactly who this channel is for. Hit subscribe and leave a thought in the comments, because every week we go deeper into these ancient texts than you knew was possible. So the throne declares telos. That root changes everything. When we read the beginning and the end in English, we think of a tape measure. We think of Jesus standing at year 0, and standing again at year, whatever it is, when the sky rolls up like a scroll, leaving us to figure out the agonizing, chaotic middle on our own. But the Greek text refuses that definition. He is not merely the starting gun and the finish line. He is the active source and the completed purpose. This is not a statement about how long history will take. It is a promise about what history is actually building. God is not waiting at the end of the timeline with a stopwatch to see if humanity makes it. He is the very design pulling the universe toward its intended shape. The telos is not the moment the clock stops in human history. He sees eyes like a flame of fire, feet like polished bronze glowing in a furnace. It is the moment the masterpiece is finally revealed. But there is a third title hiding in this vision. And to understand this final piece of the vocabulary, you have to leave the Greek islands and step into a room filled with smoke. 600 years earlier, smoke thickens in the air. The heavy wooden doorposts of the temple tremble. The smell of burning coals and ancient incense stings the back of a man's throat. It is the 8th century BC. A prophet named Isaiah stands in the center of a shaking room in Jerusalem, watching the hem of a robe fill the entire sanctuary. Isaiah's world is on the brink of collapse. Assyrian armies are marching. Babylonian exile is waiting in the shadows. The nation is terrified of the future. They are surrounded by empires that worship gods of stone, gods of wood, gods of iron and gold. The people are desperately trying to calculate their odds of survival against machines of war they cannot defeat, and into that precise geopolitical panic, the God of Israel speaks a phrase. Isaiah 44, verse 6, I am the first and I am the last. Besides me there is no God. When Jewish scribes later translated this Hebrew scroll into Greek, they used two specific words for first and last, protos and eskatos. This is the third and final title Jesus claims in the very last chapter of Revelation, and a face shining like the sun in full strength. And the figure speaks a phrase that echoes backward through the ancient prophets. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end. He binds all three concepts together into one shattering identity. Protos is where we get the word prototype, the original, the standard by which all other things are measured. Eskatos is where we get eschatology, the final word, the furthest boundary. In the book of Isaiah, this title is used as a weapon against anxiety. God is mocking the idols of the empires. He points out the absurdity of a craftsman who cuts down a cedar tree. The man uses half of the wood to build a fire, to bake his bread. and he carves the other half into a statue to bow down to. The Babylonian gods are carried on carts. The Roman gods are carved into marble. They require human effort to stand upright. They require human armies to protect them. They are born in the minds of men, and they die when the empires fall. The idol has a beginning in the forest, and it will have an end in the ash heap. The idol is trapped in time. The creator is not. This is not a theological riddle. It is a survival strategy. The first and the last is not a label of passive observation. It is a declaration of absolute endurance. He outlasts the Assyrian siege ramps. He outlasts the Babylonian exile. He outlasts the Roman crosses. He outlasts the emperors who demand to be called gods.